And obviously we've wanted Katie to be off of her feet for the last, I don't know, 10 days, weeks. Yeah, a couple of weeks. The kitchen's piled up. The laundry's piled up at times. All the rooms have piled up at times. And today was one of those days. But I was trying to rally the troops. I saw their eyes just go over all the messes everywhere. And I was like, you're right. This is not fun. This is asking a lot of them. And so I did reward them today. And I told them that. I was like, all right, you guys, we're each going to get a sucker if we get this done.
Well, I think it is important. Like when we require more, you want to make it fun. You don't want to demoralize them. We aren't using them as little slaves around the house. Mm-hmm. You want them to know that everyone's working hard together. And when we do more work, then we also have more fun.
The Now That We're a Family podcast.
We've got a special guest here today. Lionel is wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. So, Lyman, see, that's what happens.
Wide-eyed and bushy-tailed?
Yeah. Oh. Isn't that what you say?
I think usually people say bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Oh, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Well, I'll say this. I mean, nothing was accurate about that statement. I called him the wrong name. And that's what happens.
Did you call him Lionel?
Yeah.
There we go.
When you name all your kids L's. But anyways, it's nice to have him with us. You guys might be hearing baby coos. If you're lucky, you might not. Today, are we just going to dive right in?
Let's rock and roll.
Okay.
Real quick, though, before you get going, I'm excited to hear what you have, Katie. But in defense to the naming all of our kids with an L names and it making the names more confusing, people do that regardless of what they name their kids.
It's true. They mix up their kids' names.
Yes. My older brother was Joby. Elisha. I was called Joby my whole childhood. You and, I don't know, your uncles all get called each other all the time.
It's true. And they don't all start with the same name.
Yeah.
And
or the same letter.
Even to mix it up, something that my dad did a lot was call my brothers by my uncle's name.
Yes.
Like his brother's name.
Right.
And you do the same thing with our kids.
I do.
Every once in a while, you'll just call them your brother's names.
Yep. I do that a lot. And I'll go through a couple of my brothers before I get to my actual child, my child's name.
It's kind of funny how that works. But we are just postpartum with our sixth baby. Oh yeah, we're postpartum with our sixth. And our oldest is 7. And this has been our smoothest postpartum in terms of the kids. Life-wise, I would say it's not. But like when you leave, like tonight.
We did not talk about this beforehand. Whoa.
Elisha disagrees.
We view this postpartum very differently.
Well, Elisha's been the one with all the kids. But okay. So like when you do have to leave, I guess, it's felt so different for me than other ones where I feel like totally stressed out because it's always difficult having a toddler and an infant 17 months apart. Like that will never be easy. But having the 6 kids is easy in terms of the 4 oldest, I just feel like are amazing. And they're huge helps around the house. I don't feel totally alone when Elisha leaves. I really rely on them a lot so that I can continue to heal. And they're just huge helps entertaining each other and helping out with the younger. Oh. We'll do the pinky trick. I know it looks like I'm suffocating him, but this is his version of a pacifier. So hang in there, internet. But this is just, so for me, I guess I feel less alone with all the kids. I don't feel like it's been this compounding difficulty having a 6th.
Yeah.
The younger 2, it's a juggle like it consistently is, I feel like. I don't know. What would you say to that?
Well, I will validate everything you're saying in regards to our older children. I've been crazy proud of our oldest 4 with, starting with our oldest, Leon, Lucy, Lewis, Lawrence, like just their level of maturity and the way they are able to exercise their capabilities by serving each other, serving you, serving me, really being helpful. That has been a blessing to observe. And so 100% agree that just 1 year, I mean, I guess it's not 1 year difference, but how old's Lionel, 18 months?
17.
17 months? Yeah, you said that. The difference of 17 months in each of those children really shows, just in regards to, how well they pick up after themselves, how good they are at eating, being tidy, getting themselves in the car, just like those functions that are, I guess, kind of time, or they're a little bit hectic when you are trying to juggle multiple kids. They have really smoothed out with those older ones. So I totally agree with you on that.
So I guess that's what I'm referencing. It's like we still have our hands full with the toddler and infant. And obviously, if Elisha does have to leave, or when he has calls or he has to work or stuff like that, it's hard with those two. But overall, I guess I'm just thinking in terms of the foundation that we've laid with our other kids. I feel like we're starting to see fruit in that.
Yes.
And it's just a really big blessing. And obviously we have a long ways to go, but just practically speaking, some of the things we're going to touch on today are things that I feel like we've laid the foundation in when they were 13 months apart and 17 months apart, and, and now we're able to see the fruit of that. So we have a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, 5-year-old, and 3-year-old, and then 17 months in newborn. So,
yeah. And I agree with you, especially when I contrast to, and this is probably always the case when it comes to parenting and child training. There's usually probably always somebody that is the main source of your attention and your energy. And that is certainly the case right now. I'd say with that 17-month-old child that we have, where it's like, okay, we got to put in some work here. Things, because of, I think, the circumstantial changes of our life, going from living in the tent to this rental. Then we were only here for like a week. Then we traveled for the holidays. Then we were back. And then the newborn came. And then even after the newborn came, your parents came to town, and they left quickly after Uncle Dwight's passing. And then your sisters came. So tons of support, but he was being passed around, I think, between a lot of caretakers and over that, 1 week time frame. And so because of that, you're really starting to see like, oh, okay, like this guy needs the security and stability of his parents. He needs boundaries right now. We need to not get back to the drawing board. It's not like, oh, it's, we lost any progress we had made. But you start to see the rough edges that need smoothed out. And so in light of that, I think I'm ultra appreciative of how well I feel like those older 4 are doing. Clearly, we are not nearly done. We're not even close to being done with the work as far as parenting and child training with those older 4. But when I take the 5, when you've got our newborn, and I take the 5, and we're in a grocery store, or we're visiting with people out wherever, at a function, those 4, I trust and I'm so proud of, and they handle themselves very, very well right now. And that's a huge blessing. And then I'm like full time on our, that toddler that we have. And so, I'm with you. It is really encouraging to start to see some of the payoff in those older ones. And it keeps me determined and focused, I think, with our youngers.
Yeah. And I'm sure those who have larger families can attest to this, but those that have younger families, I guess, just that putting in that effort, especially if you're having children close together and quickly, it's just really worth it to put in that effort with the older children, because it does free you up to not be behind when you have a toddler that's taking all your energy, because they do need a lot of just consistency and input. And I can't imagine if we had a 7-year-old and 6-year-old and 5-year-old, and we were dealing with tantrums or meltdowns or things like that with those age children, which still happens in some homes. And if we were still at that stage with all these kids at the same time, like, I don't know, we'd be pulling our hair out. But as it is, I will say our life has been stressful the last couple months, and our kids have brought us just so much joy. And they've actually been like the biggest delight in this season. We were just saying how much we just enjoy doing stuff with our kids, and it can help take your mind off of the peripheral stresses or things that are happening in life when you're just like, wow, our family time is really, really good. And if that was really stressful, I don't know how we'd be.
Oh, you're so right.
Doing life,
That has been my favorite. I mean, my family's always my favorite part of life, but it has been especially my favorite part of life as of late, because, labor and delivery is always what it is. It is mind blowing that you do that. That it is just a remarkable thing. And then, the 48 hours or the immediate aftermath of that is always crazy because you're like, who's sleeping, who's not sleeping. And then you've got this new baby that you're bringing into the family. But then again, we're probably going to be referencing Uncle Dwight's passing a lot going forward, but that Uncle Dwight's passing did bring so much sadness and emotion into our home. There was so much emotion in our home the last couple of weeks, bringing in the new child, Uncle Dwight. But with all of that, it just made me so grateful every time we were together, just as a family. I don't know how you felt about that, but it would just be so grounding, and it felt like such a stable place to be able to come home, and it was just our group. And I'm like, oh, okay, here I've got my people here. We get to read the Bible together. We get to sing songs, and that was more than what it usually is. The highlight. It was like far and above the highlight of each day, and was kind of that thing that could settle my spirit, settle my my thoughts at the end of the day to prepare me for bed and whatnot.
The Get It All Done Club is for the woman who wants to stop drowning in motherhood and wants to start thriving. If you want to have more free time to do the things that you love to do and become more efficient at the tasks that you have to do each day, join the Get It All Done Club. There's thousands of women who have been through the program and who are currently in our private community that is off of social media. I'm in there monthly, live, answering your questions, talking with you guys, adding new content monthly. If you would like to get a little taste of what I teach in the Get It All Done Club and see a behind the scenes of what the program actually looks like, I do have a free masterclass for you guys. It's linked down below, and it will teach you how to have a more peacefully productive home this week. Yeah, so these are some things that I feel like we've done that have made this season easier for us. That's what we're talking about in this podcast.
Great. I'm just so blown away that you just jumped in and said this has been easier than
in terms of the kids.
Yeah, with what you just laid out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not saying her life. And then obviously Elisha's been all hands on deck for every single day since I've been down with the baby. So it has been a lot on your plate. And then Elisha also has not taken off. It's been some of your heaviest work weeks of the year as well, on top of all that. And so I get you've been like up to here.
Well, yeah. And again, I'm not trying to, nobody's going to have sympathy on like the husband after you give birth.
You don't have time off. So it's not like
nights and stuff. I think I'm really glad I'm glad you're shining this light on it, because even as you're saying this, I am more and more grateful for our children. I think that's because, we're still trying to finish our build. Our dog's staying at a different residence now than what we're currently staying at. So that's more time and energy to take care of him. And then normal work stuff. If I think about how good the kids have been in the midst of it, I'm like, you're right. This is far and away the best our children have done in a postpartum season.
I think it'll make sense when I get into the points.
Okay. I guess I could always let you do that.
I should just process.
Well, I guess when you said
I'm saying, Elisha, just let me get into the points, because I think these are things that are going to really help our listeners. Okay.
Just circumstantially,
this
has been the wildest postpartum
I know. We don't need it. I don't want to tell everybody everything now that's making it wild.
Okay.
Necessarily. You know what I mean? Yeah. Life's been crazy.
Yes.
But these are things that can help you. I'm not talking about a postpartum season. I'm saying things to just simplify it and make your kids a delight. Okay.
I'm listening now.
So the first thing is scamping. And this is something that we instituted like a week and a half before I gave birth, maybe 2 weeks. So in the tent, the kids developed a lot of capabilities. They helped me a lot. They would go down to the creek and do dishes often if I needed dishes. They'd carry water. They'd help haul firewood. They did a ton of things, but we didn't have a consistent schedule for them when it came to chores or anything like that for the last 6 months. And I wasn't really ready to rush that either, because it was more for me to oversee. And so then we move into a home and I was like, I think our kids are ready for scamp. And if you're in the Get It All Done Club or you've been a listener for a while, you probably know what scamp is, but it's when my mom was overwhelmed with 7 of us and she went to my dad and was like, cleaning up is taking me forever. I do this so many times a day. And he was like, you need scamp. She's like, what's that? And he just on the spot came up with Speedy Clean After Meal Party. And he wrote a song on the guitar about scamping. And he brought us all into the kitchen and was like, you guys, I'm setting a timer for 15 minutes. Here's all your jobs. You guys have 15 minutes to clean the kitchen and get each of your zones cleaned. So like I did the dishes at upstairs. My sister did the drying and did downstairs. We all had our zones. And if you don't get done within the timer, then you get an extra job. And if you do get done within the timer, then you run around and you help everybody else so that hopefully they can get done within the timer too. So we do this 3 times a day. And my siblings still scamp. And it's been a big part of my family culture growing up. Totally changed the way we did things.
So then there were 7 kiddos, how old were you?
I was 10.
You were 10. Did you already say that? Sorry.
No, I didn't. So for my parents, it was when we moved into a house after living in a tent in a trailer.
No way.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny timing.
That is.
When I was thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, like my mom wasn't going to have us in the little trailer kitchen, like helping her clean. But then we move into a bigger house and it was like, I need help now.
Wow. That's awesome. And I'm curious as to like how the parallels, I'll say it like this. Cause I'm with you. You didn't want to create systems and like routines when it came to chores in the tent because it seemed like more work than what it was worth. Oftentimes I feel like people say, hey, getting your kids to help slows you down. I don't think that's always the case. I think that like
it's I don't know if it's ever been the case.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those things people just accept, and they're like, oh yeah, I know what you're saying. And then like some of my kids, well, it's you have an extra set of hands being helpful, and so
like when Leon was 2 and we had 3 children, 2 and under, he would run and get the diapers for me. He'd get the wipes. Like he's always been helpful. Mm-hmm. And even in the tent, I didn't have specific chores because our life was just changing all the time based on the weather. And I just had to kind of wing it. But like I required a lot of the kids and you required a lot of the kids being like, hey, can you go do this? Can you go do this? Like they worked all the time and they were always helpful.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't like a set chore situation.
Yeah. So the only time I feel like that it slows it down is like maybe the first time when you have to explain something to them. You have to show them like once how to wash the dishes, or you have to show them how to buckle in their sibling in the car seat, or show them where the wipes and the diapers are kept. And so maybe once it slows you down, but from our experience, I'm glad you feel the same way.
Oh yeah.
It's been a total asset from the beginning where they are increasing the productivity of the home. And yeah, I say that all to say, how has that been? Because was this implemented before we had the baby? I know I should be like way more tuned in here, dialed in here, but I feel like my head's been very absent from like the flow of the home. And so I'm curious as to when you decided to kind of get serious about it here.
I knew as soon as we moved into a house, the kids were ready because they kept asking to do the dishes. They kept asking to do the, to help cook and stuff like that. So I knew as soon as we were going to go into the house, we were just going to start out with that. I think a big reason why people say it takes longer with kids or kids aren't helpful are 2 things. One is something that makes it, I should say, a lot easier is if your kids are already working along with you. Like our kids work along with us and have for years. So I didn't have to teach the kids to do the dishes. I didn't have to teach the kids to dry the dishes. I don't have to teach them where to put stuff in the fridge or the pantry or how to wash a table. Like they've seen me do it and they've kind of helped alongside for a long time. And so then I just hand over all the responsibility. And I feel like you've done that too with them stacking wood or, shoveling snow or whatever. They do it alongside you. And then you say, okay, now you're going to own this project.
Yeah. Stacking wood and shoveling snows are perfect examples.
Yeah.
Where there's, how can you say this is slowing me down?
It's nice. Every shovelful they do.
Exactly. They might not be doing as much work as me, or they might not be working as fast as me, but they're working in addition to my work. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really great. I've always loved having the kids help from the littlest ages. And then something else is, so I think that's one reason why if you're bringing in a child fresh and they've never participated before, yeah, that's going to slow you down. I think another thing is micromanaging kids, just like if you're going to micromanage your husband or you're going to micromanage anyone else who's doing a job, it's going to be done differently than you would do it. So every once in a while I come in and I give a pointer like, hey, this pan's still greasy. You got to add more soap, but for the most part, I just let the kids do their thing. And then every once in a while I'll come in if a job isn't done thoroughly, or it's like, hey, we didn't, I noticed tonight, like the kitchen sink isn't cleaned out. I need to let them know the sink needs to be cleaned out, and that's how the job's done, know? But just really being hands off, I think, and letting them feel the ownership of it. They enjoy it a lot more. They aren't so scared to mess up, and it's less of a chore because they get to do it the way that they'd like to do it.
Yeah. And that's actually a good point, because I've consciously bringing up, you brought up stacking firewood, them keeping their rows straight. It's like they are doing, wheelbarrow load after wheelbarrow. Oh man, that's a tongue twister.
It is.
They keep doing loads, and I'll come back maybe after they've been working for a bit. I'm like, okay, well, these rows aren't as straight as they would be if I were stacking these things, but I'm not going to have them take them all down because it's so disheartening and demoralizing. But I will kind of coach them.
Yeah,
and show
let
them
know for next time.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, guys, we're not going to be able to get these very high because you see how unstable they are already. And so I'll, kind of, bump some of the logs to get it straighter. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But I guess you're right. If I was like kind of perfectionistic or micromanaging it, then that would feel like, well, now we got to take the whole thing down and restack it because it's not quite, as straight as I'd like it to be, or it's leaning, one way. So that's a good point.
Yeah. So I feel like that keeps it fun for everybody. So that said, just to give you a little picture of how it looks in our home right now, I don't set a timer for everybody because I'm not really worried in the rush aspect of it. I don't send, at this point, we don't have anyone dawdling or kicking around or just wasting time. They're all just doing their jobs and visiting. So sometimes we turn on music, sometimes we don't. They like when we do that. And the 7 and 6-year-old trade off. We don't have a dishwasher, so they trade off washing and drying, and putting away. The person who dries puts away. And then the 5-year-old wipes down all the counters. And sometimes, like in this postpartum season, I've had the older kids put away the food if Elisha's not here for a meal, just because I don't want to be on my feet a lot. Usually I'm kind of a free ranger, roaming around the house. And so I'll put away the food or sweep under the table or stuff like that. So I do laundry, I nurse, I just do what needs to be done and kind of fill in the gaps while the kids are cleaning up. So anyways, that's something that's just been really fun for us. We've done it for over a month now. And I'm honestly shocked there's still no complaints, because obviously it's fresh and new at the beginning. But then every time we go, okay, you guys need to scamp, they just go, okay. They go in and they do their jobs and they visit. And I think they really like being a part and knowing that they're being really helpful, big contributors.
Yeah, I did have to bring in the big guns tonight, though, when it came to incentive. Because
you asked more of them than a regular scamp.
Well, that's because it was dirtier than it normally is. See, I've been really appreciating them because I've been, here's probably a mind-blowing statistic for you, and it's not even a statistic. It's just a fact. I do not keep the house as clean as Katie does, and obviously we've wanted Katie to be off of her feet for the last, 10 weeks, a couple of weeks, and so. The kitchen's piled up, the laundry's piled up at times. All the rooms have piled up at times. And today was one of those days where we were getting ready for dinner actually. And it was like, man, we can't live with this. And so when I tried to rally the troops I didn't call it a scamp, but just to clean, that's probably the problem, honestly, is I didn't call it a scamp. But I was trying to rally the troops. I saw their eyes just go over all the messes everywhere. And I was like, you're right. This is not fun. This is asking a lot of them. And so I did reward them today. And I told them that. I was like, all right, you guys, we're each going to get a sucker if we get this done by dinner time. And we were able to eat dinner and enjoy a sucker. Those were crazy good suckers too. I haven't had a sucker for maybe years.
I haven't had one for years.
That was so
like Yum
good.
Earth.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyways, that's not really the point that you're making.
Well, I think it is important. Like when we require more, you want to make it fun. You don't want to demoralize them. We aren't using them as little slaves around the house. Mm-hmm. You want them to know that everyone's working hard together. And when we do more work, then we also have more fun. You know what I mean? Like there is a reward for putting in more effort. And I think you want to be careful with that line with your kids to keep work feeling like a group thing and everyone contributing and, reward where incentives are needed.
Yeah. Like if you have the ability to make it more fun than what it might be, it's like, why would you not do that?
Exactly.
Right. Like, and so obviously we want our children to obey us. We want our children to do chores and help out around the house without grumbling, regardless of how, big the messes are. But like, life has enough hardships as it is, like why not make it some things more enjoyable if you've got the capability of doing that?
And Elisha
if it's in your
is
power.
Really good at doing that. So anyways, and then the 3-year-old, he usually will pick up the living room. And a big reason for that, or pick up the treasures, we call them the treasures that are on the floor so that someone can sweep. So like a pen or a walkie-talkie or, all the junk that falls under a table during the day. And a big part of that is because as I'm going back and forth, I can kind of help delegate and keep him on track. So it's like, oh, do you see all the Lego on the ground? Let's pick up that, because it does take some decision making, but at least it's not taking much of a skill set. And he does a great job.
Yeah, he does.
All right. So the second thing after scamping that has made life so much easier in terms of my resting and stuff like that. Because like doing dishes, man, I'm just on my feet so long if I'm trying to do that 3 times a day, make meals and stuff when Elisha goes back to work. Okay. The second thing is eliminating options for discussion. So especially as you get, I know that sounds really weird, but especially as you have older children that start to have opinions and start to have things that they want to do, if you just eliminate the options, then you aren't having to talk about it. And so an example is all the kids' clothes go together. And so not in terms of each other's clothes, but like every single shirt they put on, I like, Elisha likes. Those are the decisions. They get to choose within the decisions we've already chosen for them.
Right. Which is how life works.
Yes, exactly. Which is how life works. So if we don't like a shirt or it doesn't, we throw it out and then that's just no longer a decision. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice having clothes that we like. The kids can dress themselves. They can wear whatever they want out of the selection that we've given them. And then the other thing is all the clothes go together. So like, for example, I don't have a polka dot shirt and striped pants for Lucy. Like all of her pants go with all of her shirts. All the boys' pants go with all of their shirts. So they always look good, even when they're choosing their own clothes.
Yeah, exactly. And this 100% credit goes to Katie because, we'll show up a place and I'll have the kids with me. Right. And this has been recent. And the comments will be like, I bet your dad definitely did not dress you. It's like, looks like your mom dressed you guys. And on one hand, that's true because the mom curated the mom, Katie, curated the wardrobe, but they did dress themselves that day. Like they got out their own clothes and they chose their clothes and they put them on. And so even on those days where it's like, well, our kids dress themselves, I'm usually very okay with it. Like this totally works for me.
Yeah. So, there are days like Sundays where we pick the clothes, but for the most part, just eliminate options. And then you won't have to go back and forth with your 7-year-old that really cares what he's wearing for that day. Okay. Makes things very simple until, I don't know, maybe the teen years. That's when they can start having input on their wardrobe. The other thing is like one coat. So we just have one coat and it goes with all their clothes. And so when we say grab your coats, we aren't dealing with puffy jackets and polka dot jackets and all kinds of unique colors and fun things and going, that doesn't really go with your shoes and just doesn't make sense. It's just like, get your one coat. They don't have to make a decision and we don't have to make a decision, and it just simplifies things. If they need to, we usually have one coat and then we have one piece of outerwear. So if it's rain weather, they have their rain suit. If it's snow weather, they have their snowsuit. So they can kind of up the ante if they need to. Number 3 is encouraging independence. So I think we've naturally, I don't know if this was nature or nurture, because our kids came so fast. It was like, you have to figure it out because I don't have enough hands.
Yeah, I also think that 6 months of living out in the tent made our kids very confident. Like they would go out for hours at a time. That was That was really fun when they would just go with no plan. We didn't give them a project. We didn't give them an assignment or tell them to go play a particular game. They would just get dressed, head out of the tent. And it was like the classic, like listening to them. And that was a fun thing about living in the tent is you got to hear all their conversations when they went outside and you were still inside. It's like they'd all, congregate right outside the tent and be like, well, what do you guys want to do? And then the next thing you know, they've been out there for 3.5 hours. And so I really am proud of them when it comes to just their ability to go play and use their creativity and their imagination. Yeah.
And something that I think makes this more fun is allowing dangerous play. And, I say dangerous with quotations. That means different things for different people. But in terms of, they light a lot of fires by themselves, especially after summer when the burn time was done, and things were wetter. Then you'd send them out and they lit a ton of fires all summer alongside Elisha. And then by the time fall and winter came, they knew fire safety. They knew it was appropriate around fires. They knew how to handle their matches. And again, this is the boys. Lucy wasn't real into it and it wasn't the 3-year-old. But he would haul sticks for the fires and they just built so many of those and loved them out on the property. Another thing is like making breakfast. That's been a huge win. Our 7-year-old, like our first week postpartum, he gets up, or not our first week postpartum, I should say, the last week before having the baby. I was really tired. Elisha was working a ton and isn't a big breakfast eater. So
I would just leave usually first thing.
Yeah, he'd just leave. And our 7-year-old, I would wake up and he has hot cereal on the table and toast toasted and oranges sliced or eggs made, and he'd just make the breakfast and with the help of his siblings. It's so nice. It's like he knew how to use a stove. He knows how to boil water. He knows how to use a knife, all those things, because he's been doing that under our, alongside us for years now.
Yep. Under our tutelage.
Yeah. Since like 5. So again, just encouraging independence. All of our boys, something I put down that's a big blessing that I forget about is all our kids wipe themselves, which sounds super petty, but like you only have so many hands. You can only be up so many times. I do think this is easier when you have boys versus girls because there's less ramifications if they don't get it right. So it's just a lot less high stakes.
Sure. Yeah. Less infections.
Exactly. There's less chance for that.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's something that they've all wanted to do really young. And I forget until I hear of like a 6-year-old or 7-year-old call their mommy in the church bathroom to be wiped. And I was like, if I was wiping 6 kids right now, like that'd be really hard. Like I'm really grateful for that. And something I take, I just assume, I guess, letting them do things like make tea, like our 5 and 6-year-old make tea. Yeah, it's a little way for them to get comfortable around boiling water and hot stuff and cleaning the house, changing the laundry. And again, things like dressing themselves. Anything they can do independently is just going to be a big blessing for you. And it just requires them doing stuff alongside us and then also allowing them that independence.
Yeah. Going back to not micromanaging too much, you were talking about tidying up. Another thing I think that can be disheartening is if they're either taking the initiative or being obedient and cleaning something up. And, they put your jacket away where it doesn't belong, or they put, a pitcher in a cupboard where it doesn't belong. I don't think you need to make a big deal out of that. You can show them maybe next time as they're doing it, or if you catch them in the act, be like, oh, you know what? Thanks for doing that. But it actually goes over here. But I do think that those are the things where when you let go of perfectionism, then it is a lot easier for them to grow in their capabilities and their confidence.
Number 4 is rhythms. And these are things that you and the kids can count on. And again, it eliminates discussing with the kids. Everyone just knows what to expect. So for instance, we have a nap time from 1 to 3 every day. That is so life-giving because it's basically split up my day into a morning and then an evening, and you have a break in the afternoon. So all the kids rest from 1 to 3, the little ones nap, and the big ones get to read books. But I don't have the kids take quiet times together because I feel like they come back with fresh excitement to play together when they've had a break. So even if they're in the same room, they'll read books and there's no talking. They could draw or do something like that. But this isn't collaborative play during this time because they can do that afterwards and they're all excited to hang out again. And this is really nice with the newborn. So I start, day as soon as my milk comes in, nursing the newborn during the day on every 3 hours. And this helps the newborn start napping during 1 to 3 as well. So they're napping during 1 to 3, and guess what? Then I get a nap from 1 to 3. So it's really nice having that rhythm. Another rhythm is when they get to wake up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just non-negotiable. They don't come out of their room until 7:30. And so that is nice because it gives us time in the morning just to have some quiet, right, to prep for the day. And then it's all, the day starts all collectively at once, right? Mm-hmm. There's not just kind of like this trickle effect where it's a onesie and a twosies coming out. It's just like a definitive start to the day. And that's really nice.
Yeah, it really simplifies things. So anyways, just those rhythms that everyone can count on. And I go to bed knowing, hey, no one's going to get up before 7:30, so I'm not stressed out. Mm-hmm. I know if the night was rough with the baby, I get a nap in the day or whatever. And it's not all perfect. Sometimes someone just needs extra attention during their nap or keeps getting out of their bed or something like that, But most of the time, huge win. Number 5 is simplify. So only have enough dishes for one meal. And that really helps. Like if you only have enough bowls for everyone to have bowls once in the day, then if you want to use them again for lunch, you've got to have them washed first. Mm-hmm. Or if you only have enough plates. So that's something that can really help the dishes not pile up. We only have one baking dish, one pan, one skillet, one muffin tin. And even if all the dishes are out at once, it doesn't take an overwhelming amount of time because you can't just keep withdrawing from the dish bank.
This is crucial. And it's, I think, just a good principle to have for life. Right now, we don't have a dishwasher at the house that we're staying at. We do all the dishes by hand. And it gets so overwhelming because I've been in different, I guess there's different times where if you aren't living with that set amount of dishes where you get so behind where you don't want to, you just like want to start over again in life. You're like, let's just take all these ones to the dump and go buy some new ones that are clean. But we don't ever get to that point, which is really nice.
Yeah, not for the last, few years. Mm-hmm. So that's been huge. Another thing is having one pair of town shoes and then one pair of other shoes. So for us, I've always tried to combine the weather boot. So when we were in town, we used hunter boots. We used those for rain and we used those for snow. We moved out to property and it was like, oh, guess what? There's a third season. It's mud season. So now we have muds. I think that's what they're called, right? They're really insulated down to negative 20 degrees. They don't look super stylish like a cute hunter boot, but we're out in the boondocks. So they have one pair of snow, rain, and mud boots now, all in one. And then, so again, you just simplify. And then you're like, hey, when we're going to town, again, put on your town shoes. Everyone knows what that means. And they go with everything. Yay. Number 6 is, but we talk about this all the time. I think everyone overlooks this. I really do. But it's a big secret to looking put together when you go out as a family without a lot of effort. What is it?
Combing the kids' hair?
Yes, it's doing the kids' hair. It is crazy, you guys. We go out in the kids in like Carhartts and we have a ton of kids. It could look like a yard sale.
Well, Carhartts look awesome. I think it's not
the Carhartts look good, but I mean, they could be dirty, whatever, okay? But we gel the boys' hair and everybody stops us. And it's literally like, wow, your family looks so great. Did you guys go get pictures today? Like, it's like, no, but we did our kids' hair. And for whatever reason, you could be wearing the best, your kids could be in the trendiest, cutest, best clothes. But if their hair is like in their eyes or mangy, it just doesn't look put together. And then your kids can be wearing whatever and you just do their hair. And it's just restful and it looks like you cared as a parent. So nice. It's our 5-minute tip for looking like you cared as a parent. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We know you do. Yeah. We know we do. But looking like it's just doing the kids' hair. So anyways, we have like super glue. We just gel the boy's hair into oblivion so it does not move all day. And then Lucy, I curl her hair once. I keep it really short. Having low maintenance girls' hairstyles are good if little girls can't do their own hair. So I just cut her hair really short, and then I curl it once at the beginning of the week. It stays curled all week long. And it looks like she just gets compliments all the time. And it's like, well, I did nothing since Sunday and it's Saturday, for her hair.
Wow. That's awesome.
It's really nice.
That's great.
So anyways, it makes life easier. Okay. Number 7 is having an early bedtime.
Crucial. I mean, that's how we're able to do this podcast.
Yeah.
Is the rhythms and roots, going back to that rhythm where that is the kids go to bed at 7 and there's no discussion about it. It's not a debate. That's just when they go to bed. And some of the older ones get to, they've got reading lights. And so they will lay in bed and read their books. So they enjoy that. But our house is quiet, I'd say 7:15, 7:30, like it's a quiet house. And that gives us time to connect, to plan the next day. Once or twice a week, we do this, which is always really fun and really restful for us as well. As opposed to when we weren't able to do that out at the tent, it was a bit more of a challenge getting the podcast done because we were doing it midday. So a couple kids needed to be napping. The other kids needed to be playing, away from the tent where they couldn't be heard. And obviously we have many episodes where they are in the background. Like you can see them in the video playing in the background. But yeah, that bedtime is really helpful.
Yeah. So again, they know how to count on it. They know to count on it. We know to count on it, and we adjust with the reading. And I came from a family where I was 21 and going to bed at 9:00. That was our family's home shutdown because my parents needed that time. They had 11 kids. And we just adjusted it by I'd, be doing stuff in my room, but I was still in my bed while I was home. Number 8 is 0 screen time. I just think that makes life, when your kids adjust to it, just so easy.
Yeah. Once again, it's just not it's not a conversation piece. And it's bizarre because, again, people know that we still enjoy a movie maybe once a quarter. And in fact, they watched a movie a week ago, I think.
Sergeant York
with their aunties, which was awesome. We told them they totally could. Their aunties were taking them for us. And we're like, if you guys need to watch a movie or anything like that, you totally can. So they watched Sergeant York. And of course, for 24 hours after watching those movies, what's the only thing they want to do?
Talk about the movie.
Well, they talk about the movie, but then that's the only time they'll ask for another movie.
That's true.
Is after watching a movie. And then that 24 hours or 48 hours passes and it's just never brought up again. When they come in from outside and it's cold, or they get up in the morning or whatever, it's right after nap time. Some of those crucial, some of those more challenging segments of the day, when screens are typically a fallback, they have been for us in times past. It's not even a discussion. It's just not something that they ask for. And that is really nice.
It's not something I think of anymore either.
Neither do I.
Which is funny. Because it was I fought that for maybe 6 months. Yes. Thinking don't turn anything on. Mm-hmm. Don't turn anything on. And now it's I don't even think of that as an option, which is actually really nice. But it's just really freeing because in eliminating the screens, they've built a ton of capabilities and interests and hobbies. And that actually goes into my next point, which is teaching independent skill sets and life skill sets. And so then your kids have a ton of things they can do independently that they find enjoyment in. So you aren't trying to entertain them all the time, especially in a season like this, which is postpartum, where I'm not doing homeschool all during the day. They don't have very regimented time blocks of what they're doing. And so they have a lot of independent time. And it's really cool. So things like reading, super helpful skill set to have, especially if you're going to have a child making food or something like that. Telling analog time. I really like kids to have a watch and not just learn digital time, because then they're so much more capable in life. But things like knitting, drawing, they draw so much, embroidery, whittling. The kids got into scroll sewing, or our 7-year-old did this year, right? That's what that's called. The sewing machine, sewing, outdoor time you mentioned, but then puzzling, Risk. So, that Risk game, it says it's for kids 10 and up, but our 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old play that game. They sat down and played it with us a couple times. And then we really encouraged them though, like, hey, teach your younger siblings to play and play it with them. And so our 7-year-old got out the rules and is reading it to them and walking them through it. And so again, going back to that, like not micromanaging, like they played it with us a couple times and it's like, hey, you're on your own. If you want to play that game, you got to teach someone else.
Yeah. I mean, just this morning, some people from our church blessed us with a meal last night, and they also left like gifts for the kids, which was so sweet.
So extra.
And they left like this paper airplane making kit for the boys. And so and we didn't get into it last night, but the boys pulled it out this morning, right before breakfast, is when we were preparing breakfast. And just their capability to read directions and follow, going back to that reading piece, because they asked me, they said, hey, and I'm sitting there reading my Bible. I'm like having a Bible time, holding Lionel, drinking coffee. And I'm not like fully mentally ready to go engage, in like a hands-on way. But then they asked me if they could pull out the paper airplane making kit. And all 4 of the kids were engaged the entire time I finished my Bible time, was able to go make them breakfast. And they were reading the instructions and putting the paper airplanes together. And I was like, that's such a win right there. Just their ability to read directions, to be problem solvers. It's really helpful.
Yeah, and letting your kids be problem solvers, I think, is huge in independence. And so not always being there for them, not being like, okay, letting them know I'm not at your beck and call all the time. You don't need to say that. But like Elisha said, he was doing other things. He couldn't drop what he was doing.
Well, I could have. I just didn't really
training
want to.
Lionel, and
we were kind of having a session.
Lionel. And so being like, hey, I tell the kids this all the time. Mama can't do that right now. You can wait until I'm ready to do that, which might be in a couple hours or this afternoon, or you could try to figure it out right now by yourself. And so often they opt to try to figure it out by themselves, knowing that the fallback plan is like at 3:00, Mama can help them out.
Right.
And often they figure stuff out on their own. So I think letting them know that, not being afraid to let them try on their own is great. Checkers and chess, memory, paper Sloyd. These are just all things that the kids play on their own.
Battleship. They've been playing a lot of Battleship.
Yeah, lots of Battleship. They're trying to teach the younger kids their letters and numbers so that they can figure out Battleship, because we got some wonky games of Battleship going on. Something else that's really awesome that we discovered in the tent was I love to sit down and read picture books to the kids when everything was kind of hectic. But sometimes in the tent, everything was hectic and I had to be doing something else. And so I started asking our 7-year-old to sit down, especially when he got really keyed up. And, if you have 7-year-old boys or 8 or 6 or whatever, and you're thinking, okay, I can't send them outside right now. If they can read, telling them, hey, sit down and read a book to your younger siblings, it gives them somewhere to direct their energy to. And all the kids would sit around and be engaged, and he'd feel like $1,000,000 reading them a book, and he's getting reading practice. So anyways, that's a big one, because it just like help him channel his energy. Okay, we're going through the last few here. First time obedience. Sounds basic, but it's big. And
crucial. That's
why you're working so much with the toddler right now.
Yeah, because like I said, we go out in public, and the 4 oldest, they will stop, at the intersection if we're on a walk, and the sidewalk, there's an intersection. I know that they'll stop right there, and when I yell at them to stop, if there's danger, they stop right away. They get away from the water. That is, we wouldn't be able to go out right now because I don't have enough hands, especially as I'm like taking care of our toddler. So yeah, crucial,
and that starts young. Building. This is 1:11. We've kind of touched on this, but again, going back to Joel Salatin's quote, I think the number one way we're building confidence in our kids is by having them successfully complete meaningful tasks.
Yeah. And they know the difference. Again, going back to scamping, cleaning the house, they know it brings so much more. It brings so much value to the home. It's a meaningful task, and they know what successfully completing it looks like, or depending on what the task is. And they love it. Like I said that, I gave him a sucker tonight after cleaning up, but usually the satisfaction of the job, you see it by the time they're done, that's enough for them. And they're proud of themselves and they're grateful they added this value to the home. And then they're able to take out, Battleship. And those are other fun ways to reward them too, is like, hey, like, let's get everything tidied up. And then I will play checkers with you, or I will sit down and play a game of Risk. And I've been doing that more frequently too, because I want it to be fun to serve one another. And this goes to marriage. It can really be fun to be married and to be serving your spouse. And I want my siblings to view it that way. Obviously, you want there to be an element of duty, and you want that, because that is true, within marriage and within siblings and being in a home. But when you have the opportunity to make the performance of your duty fun, then I don't know why you'd miss out on that.
Do it. Yeah, Elisha's been so great my whole life. But the last couple weeks, like last night we did a dance party, which was so funny.
That's not true. We did a dance competition.
Oh, you're right. It was not a party. It was a competition. And it was hilarious to see what kids did what. Or like the night before we set up, or one of our sons had an idea. He wanted a round table game situation. So he had all these tables and thought it would be fun to put a game on each one and play. And so Elisha's like, okay, let's do it. And so like, that was so fun. And just, I'm talking about all this independence and this responsibility and all those things, but it's like, it's really fun to do things with the kids when we can. And we do try to do that as often as we can.
Definitely.
Which is such a joy. Number 12 is only having builder toys in our house, and then only one toy type out at a time. So that's Lego, or that's the trains, or, something to that effect. This just simplifies toys for us. We've done it for years and years.
Yeah. It makes the kids enjoy the toys more, it seems like. Like when that's the thing that they can really get ensconced in and go deeper in that one craft, then they enjoy it a lot longer.
Yeah. And it's just, we don't have all the other stuff all over all the time, which is really nice. They don't get tired of the builder toys. Number 13, there's 15, just so you guys know. It's such a random number. It's just like what got put down.
That's what you got. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone eats what daddy and mama eat.
And we eat really well, I must say, thanks to you. And also these great people at our church.
I was going to say, everyone at our church cooks really, really well. So the meal train we're riding right now.
Yes.
It's the best week of 2 weeks of the year.
No, I love your cooking. But no, this has been it has been a good ride, honestly. We're loving it.
We're very grateful. So obviously there's so many tips and tricks and whatever out there for picky eaters. The way we kind of see it in our home, or, not raising picky eaters or whatever. In our home, we kind of practice what we do out in public, and it's just inhospitable to not eat someone's food and to complain about it. It's
that's bad manners.
It's just bad manners. And so it's not something, it doesn't really matter what your tongue thinks about it. It's inappropriate to complain about food or to deny food that someone's taken the time to make. And so we do that in our home because I put in effort, or, these days Elisha's putting in effort for meals. And this translates to when we're over at someone's house to eat and they thank the cook and they eat what's on their plate and go home and have a snack if it wasn't their favorite thing in the world. So I think one way that we do this in our home is just serving small portions. The kids have to eat everything on their plate if they would like to have more. And usually there's always something on the plate, whether that's cornbread or potatoes with sour cream, or, there's always something they want more of. And so they're welcome to have seconds of just whatever they want more of if they finish what's on their plate. And that's kind of how we do it. We don't have any knockdown, drag out fights. If they don't want to eat the salad, that's fine. You just can't have any more of anything else. And that's really what we've done. Yeah.
It really has not been a point of contention in our home.
No.
I mean, you said you can't remember any of these drug out battles.
No.
I just don't ever remember it happening.
And we would I do remember certain siblings of mine growing up where, they'd sit there for 4 hours and the zucchini's cold on their plate. And I knew we didn't want to do that in our home. but I don't think we were intentional about what's kind of worked for us until I was thinking about it. And then I was like, oh, I think what really motivates the kids is they want another biscuit.
Oh.
Or they want another.
Right. The fun thing.
Yeah, they want the fun thing.
Yeah.
So they just suck it up and get through it.
Right.
If not, they know they're going to be hungry because
Right.
they ate everything on their plate, but it wasn't necessarily enough to really fill them up.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we don't, I mean, we don't make our kids finish what's on their plate.
No.
But if there's something that's fun that they want a round 2 of, then they need to finish everything else on it.
Yeah.
You already said that, I guess. But
but
that just seems to be this helpful enough.
Natural consequences. Okay. Let them decide and problem solve. We've talked about this, but like the kids will come and be like, hey, where do you want me to put this? And I don't know, like decide where you want to put that in the pantry, or like, where do I don't know. I'm trying to think. The kids come to me with questions though. And I'm just like, you decide. You know, my mama's brain's making other decisions. You make this one. And I think it gives them confidence to be like, okay, I can just handle this project. And it's the same thing with problem solving, not rushing to their aid for everything, even relationally. Let them relationally problem solve. That was 15. And just if I hear a scuffle going on in the back room, if no one comes and gets me and begs me to be judge and jury, I just let them figure it out.
Right.
You know? So as often as possible, just letting them solve their own relational disagreements, letting them solve their own problems gives them a lot of confidence in those areas. That's it.
That was it?
There are a lot of things that came to mind after me sketching down these ideas, and a lot of them I talk about in the Get It All Done Club, to be honest. That's why there's over 100 videos in there, 150 videos maybe.
Wow.
I don't even know how many. Because as I think of things, I like to say them, or on the lives when people ask questions, then that prompts like, oh, what do we do in our home? Or, and so we do a live Q&A every month. And I feel like these are the types of questions that we answer. I say it's just me on those calls.
Well, you two become one. Okay?
It's true, but I feel like it's a group effort because we're doing the parenting thing together. So anyways, there's a lot more stuff like that in there, but this was just a smattering of what came to mind of things that I'm grateful for having added another baby to the family, which technically is more complexity and more going on at one time. And I'm just like, wow, I just feel so blessed by our kiddos and the things that we aren't having to navigate right now.
You're awesome. I tell you what.
You're awesome. We've come up with a lot of these systems together. Almost all of them.
Yeah, but I mean, you are the primary implementer of them. So ideas are a dime a dozen, you know.
I don't know. I mean, I think you just implement just as much as I do. I'd be lost if you weren't child training just as actively, or more so. You really keep me on my toes with like, hey, we need to be intentional in this area. And I'm really grateful for that.
Thank you. And thank you, folks, for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.